Well, ladies and gents, good evening. It's 7 o'clock. Time to begin the meeting. As before, we're not broadcasting live anymore, but we are being recorded such that our meeting can be uploaded at a later time for the general public to delight in watching. It seems like only 5 weeks since we were last here, which it was. We were the last scrutiny committee before Christmas, and we are the first scrutiny committee of the new year. I hope everyone had a relaxing period. Item number 1 then on the agenda is apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Stubbs, who is being substituted by Councillor Jones this evening, and I've received apologies from Councillor Bryan, who is being substituted tonight by Councillor Crisp. Thanks very much to the both of you. Are there any other apologies for absence? Councillor Grocott, I saw you first.
Yes, I'm deputising for Councillor Lawley, please. Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll make a note of that. Councillor Brockie, was that what you were going to report, or is there something else? No, excellent. In that case, with those 3 apologies and substitutions, we'll move on to item number 2, which is declarations of interest. Does anybody have a declaration of interest to make about any item tonight? No. Item number 3 then is minutes of the previous meeting. Those have been circulated. I've got 2 things that we mentioned at our last meeting that we wanted further on. The first, and they're both under item 5 of the minutes, the first was a copy of a letter sent by the portfolio holder to the Prime Minister. It's a shame Councillor Stubbs isn't here tonight because I think he was the one who wanted to see it. I have got the letter. Would everyone like it sent to them, or would you like to see it? You've got them. Oh, in fact, everyone else has got one as well. Brilliant. In that case, you've now got that letter. Please do. Yes, you can give this one to Councillor Stubbs. I don't think there's anything that we need to do detailed scrutiny on. It is just for our information. But if there was anything in that letter that you wanted to raise, Councillor Sweeney is here. I know you've not had a chance to read it yet if you've only had it tonight. So please do contact him if you've got questions. The other item that was in the minutes, there was a question raised about the Kidsgrove Town deal that was quite technical in nature. I understand that our officers have contacted Councillor Waring and Councillor Stubbs, who were the councillors who were discussing it at the last meeting. We weren't going to bring anything here tonight, but Councillor Waring, as you are here, was there any follow-up on that? It related to a bridge. No, splendid. In that case, can we agree the minutes as they are printed, or are there any amendments? No, excellent. The minutes are agreed. Item number 4, then, the first proper substantive item, which is important, is the draft revenue and capital budgets and strategies for this year. I'll ask Councillor Sweeney and then perhaps our officers to introduce it, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've got my normal lines. I start off at this every year at this meeting, so I might as well do it now. This report presents the refreshed medium-term financial strategy, including the draft proposals being considered to balance the 24-25 revenue budget and the proposed capital programmes 24-25 to 26-27. It also includes the drafts of the capital strategy, the treasury management strategy, investment strategy, and a commercial strategy. Savings and funding strategies have been identified to address a £2.686 million budget gap for 24-25 via a vigorous efficiency board process, have been agreed with the managers as being both feasible and sustainable, and the first drafts of these have been scrutinised by the Finance and Performance Scrutiny Committee. A major transformation programme, the One Council programme, commenced during 21-22, which involves an extensive redesign of organisational structures, processes and technology, underpinned by changes in culture, leadership and governance. Over £1 million of recurring savings have already successfully been achieved from the programme. The programme will continue to drive efficiencies through continuous reviews and developments of the council services during 24-25. A significantly below inflation council tax rise increase of 1.99% per Band D property is again proposed. Now, this is what we said we wouldn't go above 1.99, our manifesto, and that's what we've stuck to. This amounts to 8 pence per week or less for the vast majority of households within the borough. When I say vast majority, I actually mean 90% of the households in the borough. The savings identified enable a continued contribution of £250,000 to the Borough Growth Fund. This will continue to enable investment in the council priorities, including significant investment in boosting the sustainability of the environment within the borough and supporting development of the town centre. The capital programme for 24-25 to 26-27 is based on new schemes which are vital to ensure continued service delivery and assisting the council to achieve its corporate and service objectives as set out in the council plan. These schemes total £41.2 million, of which £16.7 million relates to 24-25. This includes schemes funded from major investment into the borough, successfully secured via the Town Deal Fund for both Newcastle and Kidsgrove. Delivering the capital programme for 24-25 will require prudential borrowing to be undertaken. The impact of borrowing is included in the NTFS. The proposals enable a balanced outturn for 23-24 and a financially robust budget for the council for 24-25, both ensuring the council's continued financial sustainability and protecting services that our residents value. Now, I'd just like to repeat a part of that last line, if I can, please. Both ensuring the council's continued financial sustainability and protecting services that our residents value, which is what this council is all about. That's the introduction a bit. Now, I'm happy to take questions, and I've got two hugely experienced officers on my left who, anything I can answer, I'm sure they will be able to. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Councillor Sweeney. We've got I'm just having a look down there. There isn't a confidential appendix for this item, but there is for the next one. So for this one, feel free to quote freely from all of the appendices. If you've got any questions about what we've heard from Councillor Sweeney, or comments on the budget, or alternatives, extra savings, things we should change, things that the administration should look at again. I'll go with Councillor Betley-Smith first, and then I can see Councillor Crisp. So Councillor Betley-Smith.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. I looked through these papers with great interest and did actually look at some of the detail, which I'll touch on in a moment. But firstly, I have to say that I was just so pleased when I saw this of what's proposed, what's been achieved within the constraints that we face. And basically, it's so encouraging to see that everything's in good order. And there's a way forward that's planned and set out in the paper, which I think is commendable and encouraging in equal measure. Diving for a moment into the detail, if I may, I saw things like national insurance, where it's uprated in accordance with the proposed pay increase. But of course, national insurance has gone down. The government reduced the national insurance. So I wonder, basically what it's telling me, that the detail that I've looked at is that I suspect it could get better than the figures here. Last year, I sort of fretted that the world was going to end, and was the contingency and was the planning. But this year, I think it could get better. And national insurance was one thing that I picked out. And then, of course, you've got interest and so forth, but that cuts both ways in terms of the investments and in terms of the cost. So basically, the question is at the end, do we think this is the worst case analysis this time round and it could get better? Thank you.
As far as I'm aware, I think accountants are taught to be cautious, and they will always go on the side of caution and looking at the worst possible case scenario, which is the way they work, really. So they don't give you any sort of false hope or anything. I think they try to be as realistic as they possibly can, and I think this has happened here. But I don't know if you got any comments on that, sir?
Yeah, so just looking at the table, it is Appendix 2. We've assumed a 3.5% pay award for each of the 5 years. In 2023-24, the pay award has recently been agreed, which is £1,925. Obviously, we need to account for the employers' national insurance on top of that as part of our budget. For the following 5 years, we've assumed a pay award of 3.5%. Now, we have actually increased that. Originally, we put 3% in, having met with the other statutory authorities and compared our MTFS to their MTFS. And collectively we've we've all agreed that 3.5% sort of feels about right at the moment. So obviously whatever the pay award increases on salaries, then we have additional national insurance and to pay on that. So in answer to your question, we try to sort of scenario plan in the worst circumstances. I don't really think that any of us probably over the last 12 months or so would have guessed what the pay award was going to be over the last sort of 2 years, actually, should I say, and the fluctuations on the increase. So it's our best estimate now with the information that we have and the conversations that we have with our neighbouring authorities as well. So, okay.
You happy with that response, Councillor Bentley-Smith? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So what we're basically saying is it's very realistic, tinged with pessimism. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
I just think that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, it's as realistic as it can, but on the pessimistic side of things, yes. Excellent.
Excellent. The glass is half empty. Councillor Crisp.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just saying I was very happy to see that we've managed to keep the increase below 2% as we promised. I believe this is probably quite a bit lower than a lot of other local government bodies and well below the rate of inflation over the last year and a half, which I think our residents will be very happy to hear and help them with their finances.
I'm inclined to agree. Councillor Sweeney, would you also like to agree?
Yes, I would. 1.99%, we could do 2.99, but we didn't choose to. We thought we could make savings out of this council and brought it down to 199, which I think is, we said we'd do that. We said we wouldn't go above 2% for the course of this administration. That's what we've done. Thank you.
Yes, I mean any rise is unwelcome. We'd like to be able to freeze council tax, but as it is a below inflation rise, a real terms reduction in council tax is no easy thing to achieve. And I think in cash terms, we're missing tonight the honourable ladies or gentlemen of the press. They're not joined us, but I know that the Sentinel did publish an article pointing out, and they've been covering budgets and draft budgets at other local authorities and been quite critical on behalf of their readers. But I think the article for Newcastle under Lyme's headline figure was quite positive. It's 8 pence per week for the overwhelming majority, 90% of households, as the portfolio holders outlined for us. Would other councillors like to suggest anything? I'm mindful, I know last year at this time we did have a detailed paper from the Labour group containing some potential budget amendments or suggestions. We haven't had anything in writing this year, but if the leader of the Labour group, who is with us tonight, would like to say anything, he'd be very welcome. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I don't have any grand statements to make. I do have a couple of things that I'd like to ask. I was just waiting to see if other councillors, excuse me with your leniency, Chair, I don't usually sit on this committee, so if I touch on some things that committee members would normally be aware of, please understand my naivety on that. There's a couple of lines. I'm looking at Appendix 1 of the MTFS funding strategy, and there's a couple of lines that I'd like to see a little bit more of the meat on the bone behind this, and the sort of where the evidence base has come for the numbers that are on there. So if I give you the lines that I'm interested in, the first one is planning application fees. I can see that's based off a 25% national increase for minor and 35% for major. How well does that map against this locality? Because is that based on just national applications as a whole, or is that being sense checked against us as a planning authority? The second one is commercial property rent. I'd like some more evidence on that and any work that's been done to assess our property rental rates against the commercial sector. It just takes a cursory glance around the town centre, for example, to see that there's a large number of properties in private hands, many of which have rates below the authority in terms of rental rates, and also from my observation, it seems to be that we have more businesses leaving council properties than we do see coming into council properties. So just the evidence base behind that. Thirdly, the car parking. There's the 91 K over the increased demand pricing permits for the new car park. Obviously, that's we would hope that that would be the case, but what's the evidence base behind that? And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, there are, yes, 3 line items there on the Appendix 1 MTFS funding strategy. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do what we did the other week. I'm going to pass you over to Craig Turner, who actually produces these figures, rather than me saying certain things which I do know about. He actually produces them, so I think I'm probably best off getting it off Craig. Okay, mate.
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Jones. Planning application fees. The 192,000 that you see there is based on our actual budget and an estimate of over the last 3 years of planning applications that we've actually received, and a forecast for the next year as to how that will continue. So that's uplifting those fees by 25% for minors and 35% for majors. So there's a bit of work that has been done to base some realistic scenarios around that. Rent reviews, the 70,000 that we've got in there, that's already been achieved from our commercial property team going out, and a lot of the rents mainly for industrial units have not been touched since pre-COVID. So that's just bringing those in line with a more realistic rent, and the 70 is what's already been achieved. So during the next financial year, it should only go up from 70 really. So that's a pretty pessimistic view. Car parks, and there's been quite a lot of scenario based work around the new car park, and the 91,000 assumes a small amount of increase in usage and a small increase in the fee for the car park compared to our current fees. I can give you more detail on that if you wish.
I'm quite happy to have that offline. If you want to just email that through to me, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Are there other councillors who'd like to contribute? I'll go. So I saw Councillor Grocott, then Councillor Waring, and then Councillor Brocky. So Councillor Grocott next.
Basically, what I was looking at was in 2.16 staff efficiencies at 199,000. Just wondering how we get to that figure. Is a number of staffing kind of retirements and not being replaced. Obviously, something we've discussed in this group is obviously pressures on actually the working staff going forward in sickness. And obviously, I wouldn't like that to be detrimental to them. Okay. Obviously, the second one was regarding the borrowing, which I think Councillor Bethany Smith on about, is that the best case or worst case scenario? I think it's something we put up in different areas as well. Would that actually change actual specifications, or would more borrowing be required if that was to go forward, or the partnerships not work out? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sweeney or our officers?
Yeah, sure. Regarding the staffing related efficiencies, if I could just refer you to Appendix 1, and there's a bit more of a breakdown of the 199,000 there. So there's 5 different lines on there. First one's a bit of a review of the planning service structure. The second one, there's been a reduction in hours of an environmental health officer. There's been a restructuring of the licensing service because we've had a drop off in the number of licenses that they're processing. The housing and vulnerability structure is being funded a little more from some grants that they receive. And then the final one, which we talked about at the last scrutiny committee, is about capitalisation of some professional fees.
That's okay. It should basically just have a marked impact on the actual staffing, the actual morale, and actually just health. That was more than not just from the financial point of view. Obviously, that was okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Waring.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, I'm pleased to see that we've got a balanced budget going forward, and I think that given the record of the finance team over the last few years, there's every reason to imagine that they'll be able to achieve these figures that they're putting forward. I've just got one query on Appendix 1 in relation to the business rates. I can see from the council tax that we've got the increase in the base as one figure, and then we've got the increase as a percentage of the increase in the overall rate of tax. But when it comes to the business rates, I can see an increase for the tax base of 4%. I was just wondering whether there was any figure for an increase in business rates in the percentage terms and what assumptions have been made, because I've heard different things in the press about this recently, but I'm still really no wiser as to whether we're expecting these things to go up or there's going to be a likelihood of us having to give significant discounts to different areas of business. Just wondered if you got any word on the assumptions that might have been made on this. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Waring. If I can just refer you to Appendix 2, it talks about business rates baseline funding level there, and that assumes a CPI increase. The funding through business rates comes via our financial settlement. So a CPI increase of September last year gets applied to it, and that was 6.something%. 6.7%, thanks, Sarah. In terms of the business rates multipliers that the public or business rates premises owners will see, then I'll have to double check on you as to what they've gone to, if that's all right. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brockie, you were next.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the emphasis on developing opportunities to commercialise our existing and new services. Such opportunities obviously exist and are necessary to sustain the financial stability of the council. But it's just a general question that partners are referred to quite often, and we have to work with partners. But where the advice and training and the exemplification is coming from in order to bring about this commercialisation of services that that we build up to serve the public, how can we be assured that the sources of advice are neutral? Because obviously we do feasibility studies and this is perfectly legitimate, but is somebody keeping an eye on the cost of the outreach to and integration of the ideas of partner companies? Because nobody does anything for nothing. It's just a note of caution. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, if I can just put a little bit of clarity around the commercialisation at the moment. So going back to pre-COVID, we had a commercial strategy which looked quite different to what we are reviewing now, or what our strategy looks like now. So our main focus at the moment is has shifted to look at our services internally, so the ones that we currently provide and can control. What can we do any differently? So in the leisure, for example, are there anything there that we can actually promote, and any other services as a spin off the ones that we actually currently provide? We're doing everything we can internally first, and then we were sort of looking at commercial sort of sector outside. Pre-COVID, we wanted to sort of invest in industrial units, which there is a need for industrial units in the borough, and we've always had a high demand for those. But with changes in what we can borrow for and how we can borrow, we've had to sort of rethink some of that and how we do that, really. So yes, we are always horizon scanning. Today I've been on a webinar for the local government commercialisation, just to sort of see what other people are doing, what can we learn from them. Certainly always got an eye on the cost, so anything that we would do would have to sort of certainly wash its face and make a surplus for us and be affordable. And we'd always have value for money in mind when we're looking at these projects.
Thank you very much. Yes, our prudence might be significant temptation to firms of logistics and God knows what sniffing around for somewhere to tap into. So as I say, I'm sure we all know this, but I'm just bringing it up because I think it needs bringing up. And I'd be grateful to have a chat with you about the course you were on. Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Brockie. Are there other members who would like to ask questions or make comments about the draft budget? Councillor Betley-Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the finance team for their hard and excellent work. Thank you.
Yes, extremely appropriate. I think we're here quite regularly. We're here every year and we go through this process. And the fact that they're able to produce for us a balanced budget every year, particularly when there are a number of creative enterprises, a number of important things that the administration would like to see done that they are able to produce. So it's a great testament to the ability and the commitment of our officers that we're doing that. Councillor Lewis, did you want to speak? Welcome again. You are definitely a member of the committee now.
Yes, I am definitely.
Not present at the last meeting, but you're here, so welcome.
Yeah, so obviously still learning, so I apologise if I'm not asking this at the right point really, but I've sort of got questions in regards to car park charges in general. Surely, I know obviously we need to make an income from it, but surely we're better off reducing the car park charges slightly per hour to increase more cars coming on. Because I know quite a lot of people that will either park at Morrison's or Aldi, pay £1, £2 at Morrison's to park for 2 hours, but get the money back when they do shopping. Similar at Aldi, it's free parking for 2 hours. And all you have to do is buy something, so 35p energy drink, to be able to shop in town for 2 hours, but we're charging £1.90 and then they're not getting any of that money back. So I was just wondering, is it worth looking at that kind of revenue to reduce the amount that we're charging, but increase the amount of usage, therefore increase the overall income from the car park that way? Thank you.
This is the Laffer curve. This is the economic graph that people say if we tax people less, we'll get more revenue, and it works sometimes. I understand that our officers and our portfolio holder will have a response to that because car parking is something that comes up every year. It is important.
Yeah. What I would say, I mean, it's a fair question you make. Our business rates and our car parks are £250,000 a year. That money's got to be paid. It's where the big chunk of the income goes to. We have put some hourly increases on our car parking. It's actually the next item on the agenda is this actually, but that's by the by. We'll talk about it later on. That's the first time our hourly rates have gone up for 12 years, which no increase is good. 8p a week council tax isn't good, but one rise in 12 years, and this is the first time for the hourly rate. Some of the season ticket has gone up before, but the hourly rate on things like the midway, it's the first time for 12 years, which I think is this council is doing its best to do this, and I'm quite happy to stand and support that. But I know what you're saying. If we did free parking, would that bring more people in the town centre, or would it just mean that everybody would park in the town centre who works in the town centre, and the car parks would be full then? I don't know. But it's you make a fair point, but it's not one rise in 12 years. I think is us doing our best for the people of Newcastle and the business and town centre.
Thank you.
Answer. There may be another opportunity if we talk about individual charges under the scale of fees and charges. We can certainly look at what's proposed. Did you have a further question, Councillor Lewis, or shall I move on? Councillor Grocott.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I mean, just going back to it, I think we can all back this, obviously, from Tuesday, obviously, the extra money for Wally's Quarry. Just wondering if either the portfolio or can say where that's actually coming from. Maybe brought up later. And also the second one, maybe, obviously, we're getting money back from Wally's. Where has that been allocated to? Is that anywhere we can see in these actual figures? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Two things. The money from Wally's Quarry is it's a debt against us for X amount of money, and they're paying it back. I think it's £12,000 a month. They're paying back to us £12,000 a month, which they're doing The first bit, thank you for bringing it up. I was going to do it on my initial talk, but I got so carried away I forgot. And you should have a sheet here, and it says, due to recent events in respect of Wallis Quarry, Cabinet have recommended a further increase in the Wallis Quarry Reserve. The budget report currently advises that the reserve will be increased from 100,000 to 200,000. However, a further increase of £100,000 will also be made, making the Wallis Quarry Reserve £300,000 to start of 24-25, which is what you've just said. And I think is a very apt thing. As exactly how the money has come from, it's taken one reserve and put into another. But I'll let the officers give you the exact detail of how that money is produced.
So, as we were talking about earlier, from the settlement figures that we had just before Christmas, we were lucky to receive £103,000 more than we had estimated in the MTFS. So our original plan and the report that went to Cabinet on Tuesday, that sort of stated that extra fund was going to be put into the budget and borrowing support fund. Following the Cabinet meeting, and as Councillor Sweeney's just said, the changes in Wallis Quarry, that it was decided that that £100,000 will be better going into the Wallis Quarry Reserve, so that at the start of April there will be a £300,000 reserve there.
Yes, thanks for that, Sarah. That's fantastic. Thanks for the information. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Grocott, which gave our portfolio holder the opportunity to refer to the supplementary paper that's been circulated tonight. Are there any other comments or questions on the budget? This is obviously going to be discussed at full council. Full council vote on it. Full council is often a very politically charged environment. Even I will be political, but I think this year I will probably be minded to remind full council and those members who are not here that actually the tone of the discussion here has been reasonably agreeable, and actually there is no single point of outrage that any member of any party has been able to identify as to why this shouldn't be supported or why we couldn't vote for it collectively as a budget. So on that basis, these are our comments we've made. We'll pass those back through Councillor Sweeney to Cabinet, and we look forward to the budget coming forward in due course. Thanks very much for your scrutiny. If you'd like to conclude, Councillor Sweeney.
Just one thing really. The officers on my left here who've done a tremendous job with the rest of the finance team. All these savings that are listed down, they would not sign those savings off and say they were realistic if they weren't realistic. That's not the way they work. They only sign things off that they regard as sensible and realistic savings. If they weren't sensible and realistic, we wouldn't be having a discussion now. We'd do something else, because that's the way accountants work, and these people epitomise that, and they will only make these things. That's why they can defend them all, because they've looked at them and think, no, this is fair enough, and that's the way this council works. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. That concludes discussion on item number 4. Item number 5 is the schedule of fees and charges. Would you like to introduce the item briefly?
Yeah, very briefly, if I can, Chairman. The one thing that I will remember to say this time, actually, before I start, what we've decided to do to give most help to our market, our ancient market, is to freeze the charges on the stalls for this next 12 months. You'll see figures on here. Well, those have all just been wiped out now, and there'll be no increases on our market stalls. Thank you.
So to clarify, no increase for the market fees for the market stalls.
Yeah.
Everything else as printed, and some of them, yes, some of these fees are going up or forecast to go up. We've heard already that for car parking, it's the first such rise in 12 years. But if anyone would like to pick a particular thing that they'd like to look at or to scrutinise in more detail, you'd be very welcome now. Who would like to go first? I mean, if nobody comes forward, we will move straight on, because we can put this through on the nod. That's absolutely permitted. Councillor Waring, you've thought of something.
Yes, I'd just like to say I'm very happy with them all.
I think that again is a possibility. We could have done, the administration could have done a phenomenal job, the best in the circumstances that we've got, and we could be looking at a non-controversial series of increases, rises. or indeed a freeze. We should celebrate the freeze in the market stalls. If it's achievable, we've done it. That's great. Thank you very much then for looking at the item. If anyone thinks of anything, or if anyone has a technical question to raise with officers in advance of the budget setting itself, I am certain that the portfolio holder and our officers would be happy to answer that. But we will conclude item number 5 then, conclude the discussion on that, move on to item number 6, which is the work programme. This is, so this meeting has been focused on the budget, obviously. Our next meeting, which the calendar tells me will be on the 14th of March. Yes, it's in green on our report. Quarter 3 finance and performance report, an update, one of our regular updates on the commercial strategy, and the staff health and wellbeing survey. I know there was a lot of interest in the staff health and wellbeing because it's linked to our performance on sickness, particularly long-term sickness absence. So our next meeting will be when we're considering that again. It's something that we've taken a particular interest in. Are there any other items that members would like to see brought forward at this point? If not, we can move swiftly on then. Thank you very much. Item number 7 is public question time. I've been made aware of no members of the public who've asked a question, and there are none present this evening. Item number 8 is urgent business. I'm aware of no urgent business. Item number 9 is the date of the next meeting, which, as I said, was the 14th of March. Item number 10 is not moved. That's the confidential trade refuse scale of fees and charges, which we've not felt necessary to refer to, unless anybody would like to pick it up now. No, excellent. In that case, we're coming to the end of the meeting. Are you going to? Oh, okay. Yes. In that case, if we want to hear what the numbers are, we will have to move the exclusion resignation. Have we done that? No. Okay. Are we happy to exclude the public from the meeting? Excellent. We've excluded the public from the meeting. Go ahead and say what you'd like to say about the confidential appendix.